Record the meeting. Great. I am recording.
Would you like to introduce the subject?
Yeah.
Role play. I'm looking for something.
No.
That's
Good morning.
clean.
Welcome to the Massachusetts Library Association Readers Advisory Section overview of gentle reads. It's all written down right here. Thank you for coming or watching, and please join us and join MLA whenever you can, because we have exciting meetings and then we have genre overviews, and your membership supports our existence. So what we are doing as part of our section meetings is to do a talk amongst ourselves and figure out a genre that we would like to learn more about. And then one of us or two of us gets together and figures out some of the details, and then we open up the discussion. So there are in-person attendees today. Please jump in with questions. You can use the chat box or you can interrupt me. I am happy to be interrupted. Anna will possibly interrupt me from time to time. So according to Novelist, I'm going to read the definition of gentle reads so that I don't get it wrong. Gentle reads is a genre term that Novelist applies to books at the adult reading level that are characterized by no sex, no violence, and little or no offensive language. These stories often occur in small towns, are upbeat, and may have an inspirational element. And so that's credited to EBSCO, and it is second only to literary fiction in lacking appeal for me personally. So please forgive any bad attitude that leaks through. I have been asked for gentle reads, and I am capable of finding gentle reads for readers, and I like explicit sex and murder, so it can be a challenge. Yes, Anna?
Well, I was just thinking, like literary fiction, it's sort of defined by what it doesn't have. Like, it doesn't have sex or violence, and it's very nebulous in the same way. So it can be hard to pin it down unless you've actually read the book.
Thank you so much for providing me with that transition. Some genres that overlap with gentle reads, this is the thing that when I was trying to come up with gentle reads, I was like, well, no, So you can find like sweet romances like Debbie Macomber. You can find cozy mysteries. A lot of times if it's set in an English village or there are recipes included, you might have a gentle read. I feel like I'm doing that You Might Be a Redneck sort of comedy show. You know, if you have an unhappy ending, you might be reading literary fiction. So cozy mystery and sweet romance, and the Amish romances and mysteries are generally very gentle. And then you can go back in time and find things by, say, Georgette Hare or Miss Reed. Jan Karon, I think, is still writing books that are definitely characterized as gentle reads. And some readers really like the sort of classic dense children's books like Swallows and Amazons by Arthur Ransom. You might be going in that direction when you are working with a patron who wants gentle reads. Yes, Anna.
I have two things. One, is inspirational code for Christian?
Yes.
And second, you won't ever have a patron coming to you saying, I want a gentle read. So
point. Thank you.
What do they say?
Why, thank you, Anna. I swear I didn't tell her everything that I wanted. I see some of you are writing furiously. I am going to link to my notes, and I'm happy to have you write down whatever you feel like writing down. No one's going to ask for gentle reads. You might have someone say, I'm looking for a book that's nice, or I'm looking for a book that's clean. In the notes, I link to an article from Book Riot that talks about calling books clean being problematic. So I would encourage us to try to minimize that sort of value language on it, because I don't think that books with explicit sex and murder are dirty. I just like them better. And there are a lot of readers who are sensitive to language that is not used in polite company, or however you want to characterize that. Meanwhile, that's how a lot of people talk. And as a character reader myself, I really notice when dialogue feels wrong. If you've got like a tough guy who never says any bad words, then I'm going to question your characterization. So they're not going to ask for gentle reads. They might ask for no sex. They might ask for a happy ending. They might ask for, recipes to be included, but they're unlikely to call it a gentle read. However, the magic is that Novelist calls it a gentle read, and so do many, many libraries. And a patron can figure out what you mean if you use the term gentle read. So when someone comes up and says, I'm looking for, a nice, cheery, no dirty, no sex book, you can Google gentle reads, and you're going to find a lot of curated lists from libraries across the country to give you a starting point. Your patrons are probably going to have specific aspects of gentility that they're looking for. You may have someone who is extremely into sex and murder, but doesn't like bad language, or someone who is very interested in a romance. They want it to be to be the central thread of the story, but they want a kiss on the last page rather than frequent coupling throughout. So talking to your patron about what they're looking for is very helpful. There are websites that help you determine the bloodlust in a mystery, or the sex in a romance. They call it spiciness, or they call it heat. And I keep defaulting to cozy mystery and sweet romance because those are things I'm more familiar with and comfortable with. There are a whole lot of things that don't classify as cozy mystery or sweet romance that are gentle reads. One of the things that I am learning from patrons during the pandemic is that they want their reads to be low stakes. They don't want someone to be kidnapped and need to be rescued. They don't want someone dangling off a funicular that has shut down. They want stuff to happen, definitely go down the road and have tea with your neighbor and come home and feed your cat and have that be the novel, because there are a lot of scary things in the world that the reader may be wishing to set aside or not have to worry about. You'll also have readers like me who want to read things where everyone dies because that's where I live now, and we might as well face it. Different sides of the reader coin, for sure. I'm going to talk about finding tools because I don't have a lot of gentle reads in my head. And when I started looking for gentle reads, the list of authors that I came up with was exquisitely and excruciatingly white. I am not a fan of all white displays and lists, and so I'm reluctant to even use names as we're talking about this genre, because I feel like I'm not doing good work finding inclusivity in this. And maybe that's because only white people have peaceful lives. I don't know what the deal is, but Novelist has a one-page thing on gentle reads search strategies, and I've linked to this in our notes. It can be really good. It's got some questions that you can ask, and it has some search terms that you can use in Novelist. The CW Mars network, where I am employed, has Novelist embedded in the catalog. And I don't know if your Oh, good point, Pam. I don't know if your network has Novelist embedded content, but because it's embedded in the public catalog, you have the option of going to CW Mars and looking it up and using their catalog to find, look up Outlander and then scroll down and you can see the read-alikes and you can see the search terms and you can go from there. So definitely try that out if you need to. Pam says in the chat, I would think that this kind of story would be the least likely to be translated into English from other languages, which seems kind of counterintuitive and also kind of intuitive, because when someone comes into the library and says, I'm just looking for a book to read, and they're like, I want a thriller, or I want suspense, or I want a mystery, you look at the bestseller list, you look at blockbuster movies, you see a lot of action. You don't see a lot of setting and language. But Frederick Backman, is he writing in Swedish and getting translated? I feel like he might write in English because he speaks English better than I do. But Pam makes a very good point. You are not, just like when you look at your world languages section and you see the books that have been translated, the United States publications that have been translated into Spanish, you see a lot of blockbusters and bestsellers and Danielle Steele and Dan Brown. It's kind of a little bit similar when I see things coming through that were published in Europe and are being published in the United States in translation. They are often thrillers, or they're dark mysteries, or they're the woman who is watching you on the train in a cabin, kinds of things. So Minuteman also has Novelist in the catalog. So if you're in Minuteman, you are in good shape. But if you don't have Novelist embedded in your catalog, you should really check it out sometime, because you can access the content without a library card number in the network. And it's extremely helpful. I use it when I'm showing people how to find books for themselves all the time. I'm like, look up your favorite book, scroll down, you're going to find all kinds of stuff that you might not know about. In addition to the one-page searching for gentle reads, there's also a copy of the Novelist Book Squad Engaging Adult Readers newsletter that I could not find a date on it, but it talks about gentle reads. It's got a picture of a flyer. It's got some award-winning things. The Christie Awards recognize achievement in Christian fiction, which Anna asked about. Inspirational being code for Christian, and inspirational can include Buddhism and Jewish people, but it is a lot more likely to be Christian, and it is almost certainly going to have a problem solved by faith. And I don't mean faith my coworker, I mean faith in a higher power. Although faith my coworker does solve a lot of problems. So it's important, it's good to sort of figure out some of the code words that your patrons might be asking for. Some of them might be like, I really like Karen Kingsbury, and you're like, whoop, 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 that's Christian fiction. And some are going to be like, I really want something sweet that doesn't too sexy, that doesn't do any of this terrible stuff. You're like, okay, well, do you like romance? Oh, good. Noble also has Novelist embedded content. Good job, EBSCO. You have almost got a monopoly in Massachusetts. So finding out what it is that they're after is helpful, because some folks are like, I don't want to read romance. Romance is boring. I was widowed 20 years ago. I don't care about romance. You might come into that, and it might be like, I am more interested in poisoning the vicar but not having any blood on my carpet or something. Again, I go to cozy mysteries because that's what I can think of. The good thing about this newsletter and this article, there is a picture of a flyer that I'm looking at, and it does have the Traveling Cat Chronicles, appears to be by an Asian writer.
It is.
But everything else is by a white writer. And there's nothing wrong with reading books by white writers. I personally try to prioritize building my awareness of BIPOC creators. And so I had to dig really deep, and I had to ask Twitter, and Twitter only came up with 3 for me, but they also gave me some ideas about low stakes books that might have sex in them. So there's a romance writer named Jackie Lau who writes romances that have sex on the page, but there is like no other peril going on. And so they're like really low stakes and they're really comforting, unless sex on the page is not something you're willing to read. So you will find a lot of stuff out there that fits part of it, but doesn't fit all of it. And you want to make sure that when you're talking to your reader about what they want, I keep saying that, be sure to listen to your readers when you're helping them find things. This 3-page newsletter is also linked in my notes, so you can get your hands on it and see things. I like to talk about award winners as being something helpful. Like if you are a literary fiction reader, you should check out the Booker Prize list, because that is the most concise list of unreadable books in the world. The Christie Awards are for Christian fiction. You will find there is the Agatha Award is a mystery award for a like bloodless mystery. If you read the description, like the Agatha Award is different from the Edgar Award, and it is basically like a grit factor. I don't have a lot of, yes?
No, go ahead.
I don't have a lot to say about this. I don't have a lot of examples. The titles that Twitter gave me that sounded like they were cozy, not cozy. Sorry, one of them is cozy. Gentle was His Only Wife by Peace Adzo Medie, and Aisha at Last by Uzma Jalaluddin. Both are very gentle in terms of not having sex or violence included. And then there was a suggestion of the Gethsemane Brown Cozy Mystery Series by Alexia Gordon, which has some ghosts in it, but they're not scary ghosts, which makes me think about Aunt Dimity's ghost in those mysteries. There is the Dumpling House Mysteries by Vivian Chen. Auntie Yu, I believe, is the Dumpling House. There are books written by people of color that qualify as gentle, and there are a whole lot of books that are written by people outside of the United States experience, where they're talking about their lives as refugees under martial law that are not very gentle. So a translated work that has hit the bestseller list or that Oprah is talking about is unlikely to be gentle. But the nice ladies on the morning shows have relatively gentle choices, although they might have sex. Anna just handed me her phone, and the Stop You're Killing Me website, which is a really great resource for mysteries.
Nope.
has a section on cozy parentheses traditional mysteries. So thinking about cozy mysteries as traditional mysteries can be helpful when you think about Agatha Christie and Dorothy Sayers. People die, but they don't die on stage, and they don't have, there's a whole lot of talking about who did it rather than doing the forensic work behind the scenes. I don't see any white people, I don't see any non-white people on this list to shout out. So I'm not going to, because I bet you know how to find them. I'm almost done. My notes have a list of white gentle reads authors that goes back deep into the 20th century, because like I said, a lot of classics and a lot of writing that was done in the 50s and 60s, just by nature of the culture of Western society, is going to be more gentle. It's also going to be a whole lot more racist and sexist. So you want to take that into account if you're suggesting reads to people. I I love to read Georgette Hare, and she is racist and sexist. And so making sure that I'm in the mood or I have those filters on can be really helpful. You will find people writing in the 21st century like Sarah Addison Allen and Frederick Backman, and Jenny Colgan, who are very white, but they are writing in the 21st century. So they have a little more progressive sensibility, a little more what?
Oversight.
A little more oversight than things written in the 60s. Rebecca asks about my notes. I have not posted them yet because I kept hoping they would be a little more fleshed out before this morning. They will be linked in the minutes of the meeting, which will be posted on the RA site, the MLA site. And really, it's not much that I haven't said. I don't know if you use Goodreads as a resource when you're looking for things for patrons. One of the things I like about Goodreads is the use of natural language because it is put together by people who are reading. So if you look for gentle reads on Goodreads, you're going to find a list where it says books marked gentle reads by readers, but you're going to find gentle read and you're going to find gentle reads and you're going to find all of this other stuff because of the way readers name their shelves or the way they use natural language when they're tagging things. And that can be super helpful when you're talking to a patron who says, I want this, and it's a phrase that you wouldn't necessarily apply. It's going to be helpful in Goodreads. It's not going to pull a lot of library and curated lists like Googling gentle reads book list will, but it will get you things that people have self-classified. And that's a place that you can use words like clean or sweet or wholesome. Oh, wholesome. That's a good one. The legal definition of wholesome is fit for human consumption. I learned that in a nutrition class in high school, and I have never forgotten it. I'm looking at my list. There's like mid-century stuff, but people are writing. Many reviews will spell out what's on the page. Thank you, Pam. I write reviews and I read reviews and I always forget to talk about them. And reviews are a great tool. Some of them are linked in the Amazon listing. Some of them are linked in the Novelist content in the catalog. And they really try to avoid spoilers. You know, they have a sentence about what the plot is, and then they talk about who might like it, which can be really helpful. I just thought of Ellen Hildebrand. Does she write gentle reads? I feel like there's a little bit of angst going on. They're not like that gentle, but there's not any bad language or sex, or the sex is like very waspy and off the page, and they're like stiff upper lip. I don't know. I've read them. They're set in Nantucket. They have beautiful settings. They also have very posh people and their problems are not very relatable. Yeah. Oh, Goodreads, absolutely hugely spoilery reviews. Pam was referring to reviews in Goodreads, but also patron customer reviews and reader reviews in Goodreads and Amazon will give you everything you want to know. You want to be a little reserved if you are sensitive to spoilers. I love spoilers because I can't take the stress of not knowing what's going to happen. And that's something that means I would probably be a good candidate for gentle reads if they would just up the body count, because I don't like peril and the sex. Yes. I want to know how it's going to turn out. I want to know you're going to catch the bad guy. I want to know that they're going to live happily ever after, but, and I don't want I only want somebody to be kidnapped if I can be guaranteed there's a happily ever after. So you can only kidnap people in a romance. And because if you kidnap people in a mystery, you might kill them, and that will stress me out. But that reminds me, we were patrons watch TV and listen to podcasts in addition to reading books, in case you hadn't heard. So having some crossover references can be helpful. And what were we watching last night that I was so mad about?
So long ago.
We were
Bosch.
Bosch. We were watching season 2 of Bosch. Now, I'm a great Michael Connelly fan. I love a contemporary gritty mystery. I want the cop to shoot the bad guy in the head and kill him. I don't want to know about the trial, although I do love Law and Order. But so we had watched season 1 of Bosch and liked it months ago, and suddenly Titus Welliver showed up on The Mandalorian, and Anna was like, oh my God, we have to watch season 2 of Bosch tonight. So we watched 3 episodes of it, and I was infuriated by it's going to be a season long arc of the crime, which I like in a show that's going to be like 10 or 12 episodes. But I was just mad about it last night. I was like, they need to find the bad guy now. And so we like watched the next episode, and I'm like, we still don't know who did it. And we watched the next episode, and I was like, we've got to go to bed. I don't know what this has to do with anything. The point is, what is the point?
I don't know.
I need resolution.
Right.
There are readers who need resolution. There are readers who they love to just like end the book in the middle of a sentence, and then they can just live with it for the rest of their lives, bouncing around in their heads. And there's not room in my head for all those people. So I need it to be like finished, and then we can move on to something else. You can find out what it's like to live with me and how I won't let us start a new TV show until we finish an old TV show, because I can't take multiple narratives. But I digress, but that is also a thing about readers and watchers and listeners. I'm not spending time talking about movies and TV shows, but you will hear about movies and TV shows from your patrons. And so if they're telling you that they really like Game of Thrones, that tells you a lot about their sex and violence tolerance. And if they think that 30 Rock is a little too saucy, then that's telling you something about their interests, because that translates pretty well. That's one of the reasons that many of our online readers advisory forms and inquiries include, what magazines do you read? What are some of your favorite movies and TV shows? Because that really tells us a lot. Oh, this is great. Pam said that she had a patron who adored every show from the USA Network, and that it hit a good, gentle watch space for her. And that's absolutely right. There are so many shows on USA, and there's lots and lots and lots of stuff that I would characterize as procedural crime, things that you can watch an episode of and you don't have to know who everybody is, but if you're flipping channels and you met them before, you can just jump right in, and they're going to resolve whatever crisis they're having in that episode by the end of it, because that's how it's done in that network. She was mad that you didn't have more. Now, is USA where Psych was? Because I feel like Psych, yeah, okay. Psych is like a good example. It's kind of funny. It's kind of dopey. It's got like some interpersonal chemistry that's really enjoyable, and it's a mystery crimey thing that resolves at the end of the episode, but it's also got this sort of like personal development stuff with the dad, and it's just great. And that tells you a lot about what your readers are looking for. I seem to have been be petering out on content.
So
do you have any questions that you would like me to address? And what were you going to say, Anna?
I was going to say, why don't we ask people what their go-to gentle read is?
Yes, please unmute yourself and share if you have gentle reads ideas.
Since I work mostly with teens, I tend to go with the, and usually it's the girls who are asking me for things. I go with the romances that are written for middle schoolers, because they're, the most that's going to happen is there's a kiss. Mostly it's about, all the things happening in school and what's going on. So those tend to be pretty good. I would also say maybe Jenny Han for teens as well, although those are great for adults. So To All the Boys I Loved Before, there's a lot of in them, and like there's some stress about who's gonna get together with who, but it's all very gentle.
That's a good idea if you have an adult who's willing to read some YA stuff. I mean, some YA is like far
Some
toward
way is real
adult.
sexy, but you're
Yeah.
right. Like I mentioned, classic children's things. There is a whole huge range in the 12 to 18 publishing world where you're gonna find stuff that's very complex and very emotionally wrenching. I am always thinking about Codename Verity as a book that like grown-ups can hardly handle and teens love, and it's just incredible. And oh, bye, Rebecca. It was good to see you. Thank you so much for coming. Um, I have us on the calendar like from 10 to 12 on my calendar because sometimes we go long, but it doesn't matter. We're almost done. There
I
are
also had a patron who adored Anne of Green Gables, an elderly patron, and so she ran through all of those in a very short time, and again kept coming back and being like, "What do you mean there aren't more of them? Like,
Yeah.
there's a ton of them."
right.
Yeah, Little Women too. That's
Yeah.
another one. Yeah.
Classics are, like I said, a really good place to find a gentle read. And I often want to, when I'm offering them to families for sure, like there are some cultural things that have changed in the last 150 years. You might want to participate in this with your family.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like when we read The Secret Garden.
I wasn't here for that.
George and I discussed it.
But we read Harriet the Spy as a family, which is extremely classist if you haven't revisited it. There are, and it's a great opportunity. We read from the Mixed Up Files of Mrs. Basil E. Frankweiler, also pretty classist. So there are a lot of things, sometimes teachers will come in and say, everybody has to read a Newbery book. And you're like, really? But award winners, if you read the description of the award, just like knowing the difference between the Agatha and the Edgar Award, you can find things that way. I would also be cautious about literary fiction when the whole world is talking about it. One of the things that I am reminded of, and of course I'm always going back to the 90s because that's when I was reading everything, where I'm not so much reading everything now because I'm old. But like Bastard Out of Carolina by Dorothy Allison was really widely read and book group discussed and everything. And it is a terrifying depiction of a young woman's upbringing and life. And I would not give, it's an award winner. It's something that book groups read. A lot of times book group picks have stuff to discuss in them that does not qualify as a gentle read. So, and that's something that you can like learn from your book groups. If you lead book groups, your book group people will tell you what they're finding in the books.
Yes.
Do you have any final words before we turn off the recording?
I don't have a go-to gentle read. I'm just realizing
I
would have to ask the patron.
I read I had to read a Christian book in a readers advisory session that I took in the early aughts, because that was one of the genres. And I tell this story all the time, so I'm going to tell it again. Yay!
Yay!
It was a book by T. Davis Bunn, and it was a large print edition, so it didn't have the publisher cover. And there was a cat on the cover, and there was a comfy chair, and there was a fireplace. And I read the whole book, and there was no cat in the book. And I was furious. And I know that it was one of those, this is a cozy read, we're going to slap a cozy cover on it because we're not using the publisher art, yada, yada, yada. That I would beware of false advertising in gentle reads or in large print. I don't know what I'm suspicious of here, but that's
just generally suspicious.
I am generally suspicious.
I was just thinking of The House in the Cerulean Sea. Would that be gentle?
So
Anna's read it.
No, I haven't.
Oh, we're talking to TJ Clune on a panel in January, so we're gonna read it over the holidays.
I loved it, but I'm trying to decide if it's gentle or not.
Right, I think you would have to feel out because a lot of your gentle readers might be on the more conservative end. You would have to feel out their
Tolerance.
tolerance.
Because it's the people that I've given it to, and I'm making my book club read it, my book group read it too, because it's out there. It's at heart, I think it's gentle, but it involves, you know, supernatural beings and all of that. And there's a small romance, which is just so lovely. And I, you know, but there's no sex. The violence is like, ooh, fight the townspeople for their terrible, you know, things. So I don't know, maybe.
I think for the right person, the person who is like okay with genres and fine with gay people, that would be like, that is the book that everyone is like hugging to themselves during the pandemic, and I think that would be a good choice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and
Woo!
current, right? Exactly. It's, you know, it's by a queer writer. It has queer characters. It is inclusive as heck. And so thank you very much for bringing that up. We are so that, but you will hear about things like that. Like, that is not a New York Times bestseller style book, but you have heard about it, and we have heard about it. And, you know, people who I would not characterize as seeking out queer genre blend titles have been reading it and loving it. So I think it really has some reach, and it really has the capacity to fulfill the needs of the gentle reader.
Yeah, good choice.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Do you have anything to add, Pam?
No, I think you're right. This is one of those genres you have to let out and see what you're action for.
Robot Pam.
It's Robot Pam. I'm so sorry, your connection is squirrely. So thank you very much for coming. I am going to turn off the recording.
Wait, tune in next time for
Tune in next time in February for coverage. This is, yeah, yes. Pam encourages us to feel out the gentle reads genre and to listen for keywords like clean and happy and sweet, and calm and restful when your patrons are asking for them. And tune in next 2 months from now in February. We'll be talking about Westerns, and feel free to join us, and feel free to email us if you have ideas about what you think we should cover on Westerns. Thank you. Stopping the recording.
Thanks.
Did it stop? No.
Are we still recording?